We're cutting back a great big old heirloom pink hibiscus, a hardy hibiscus. I've had it for so many years I have no idea what the variety name is. But it produces this huge dinner plate size solid pink bloom. Now I know this is kind of an old cruddy bloom, but they had the tree, the hibiscus, cut back before I got out. So I had to salvage this as I did the cuttings. So I'm going to do some cuttings. There's basically two types of hibiscus, a hardy hibiscus and a tropical. What I'm doing today is a hardy hibiscus. Hey, it's Elise, and I'm glad that you stopped to buy. There's over 300 varieties of hibiscus. So there's a lots to choose from, and it can grow in cooler climates. Now the tropical hibiscus, you would have to grow in containers and be able to overwinter it. But folks also grow hibiscus as houseplants. So lots of options. Now I just went through and grabbed some of the cuttings off of the major branches that they had already cut back. And I may go back and do some more. I'm in Zone 9B, and we're going into spring, although we're going to have some more cool weather before Easter. But I'm going to do what I can do. Do some tip cuttings, do some mid cuttings. A tip cutting is when you're taking the very tip of the stem. The mid cut is in the middle of the stem. It may or it may not have leaves on it. So I'm going to go through all of my pieces that I managed to salvage. Now, one little hint. Tip cuttings, of course, you can tell what's the top and the bottom, but if you're doing mid cuttings, sometimes you can't tell. So lay all your cuttings in one direction. If you want to increase your odds of getting more cuttings to take, do more cuttings. So if you have resource material and you have lots of it, do lots of cuttings. Do 2 or 3 times more than you think you might want. So since that's got a little greenery on it, I'm going to come in and cut right above it. Now this is an option. I like to cut at an angle. Some folks don't. Some folks just cut it straight across. Usually the best place to cut is under a node. And a node is those little bumpy things where leaves have come out or will be coming out. You can wound it if you want to, just by scraping it a little bit with the edge of your clippers, a knife. Some folks will come in and cut it. Some folks will come in and squash it. Take a little hammer and squash it. So it's up to you. There's all these options. I'm going to cut this top off a little bit more. Now, you don't want to leave hardly any leaf material on your plant. You don't want to leave flowers, buds, fruit, seeds, anything like that. But a little bit of leaf is good. A little bit of leaf will help the plant still do some photosynthesis, bring in some food, some sugar, some energy. But it won't require the stem to put out lots of energy. Now this is a hardwood or semi-hardwood cutting. It's not that fresh, soft cutting right at the end. The stems like this, if your plant is mature enough to have bloomed or set fruit, it's going to have the hormone in it that's going to help it bud out a little better. So that one is finished. I'm going to come back on this hardwood and cut right below a node or this mid cut and wound it just a little bit. Now again, wounding is optional. And here is a little piece. Might as well use it. Use everything. Don't worry about sizes and diameters. You can do cuttings from 1 inch or 2 inch up to a foot or 2. In fact, I have a mulberry cutting that we did a couple of years ago. We buried the whole branch about 2 feet deep, and it's about 5 foot. it took, and it's producing mulberries. Hopefully I can get to show it to you later. Now, when I'm doing this, if I see a really swollen node, I don't use that. I come up a little bit more. I'm going to cut off these big ones. Just save some of the younger ones a little bit. Wound it a little bit. And it's ready. I kind of do an assembly line. I'm going to do some tall ones, some short ones, some fat ones, some skinny ones. The leaves that I cut off, you can use for fodder, you can use for chop and drop, you can put them in your compost pile. So you don't have to just waste them. Trim the leaves off. And this is a nice size, a long one. I think I'll come up underneath that node. I mean, and don't worry about it. There's no golden rule to this. The more cuttings you do, the more you're at home with it, and you'll just go through in just a few minutes and do your cuttings. You don't have to worry about everything being just perfect. Now, if you've got a real expensive plant and you've only got a couple of cuttings, then yes, you might want to try and be a little more careful. Okay, that's it. Wound it a little bit. All right, I'm going to do the rest, and then I'll be right back. I've got all of my cuttings prepped. It didn't take long at all. And I have different sizes, different lengths, different diameters, different amounts of leaf left on, mid cuts, tip cuts. It's all okay. Now, I've prepared a pot. I'm going to put as many in one pot as I can. I did wet this. I like to have the soil wet. When you put the cutting in, it helps to hold it a little stiffer. Now, I am going to use some rooting hormone. I don't always use rooting hormone, but since they're cutting this big tree back, I want to make sure I get some replacements. And I'm going to use aloe. I'm just going down, cutting off the thorns so I don't have to deal with them. And I'm going to cut that again. Now, I like to use the pocket form. So I'm going to just take a little chunk, going to take my knife and go in and make a little depression. Something my grandmother taught me how to do. You don't have to do it. You can take your aloe completely apart and rub your cutting on your aloe. All right. Now, I like to do this. Anytime I can get a cutting that has branched out, I like to try to save that branch, because just think about it. If this takes, there is a possibility I'm going to have 3 branches come back out. So then you just take it and put it in. I'm going to use one of these bigger cuttings to go in and make a hole. I always like to make a hole first to put my cutting in. If you put hormone on, especially a powdered hormone, or even the liquid, and you just stick it down into the soil, most of it's going to wipe off. This way, it doesn't. And here's a smaller one. Now, ideally, spring is when you want to do new growth that has hardened off, semi-hardwood, semi-softwood cuttings. And they tell you you have to do your cuttings in the morning. You have to do them when they're dry. If you can't do them right away, put them in some water to keep them hydrated. All of that's true. But then what if you work early in the morning and you go to work before dark? Well, you do your cuttings when you can. That's the bottom line. Here's another one I cut with a little branch. You see, these are standing up much better. If you can, if your cutting is big enough, go down a couple of nodes. The larger your cutting, the longer you can make it. And this is a very long one. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. Now, they all won't take, but the majority of them will, especially this time of the year. Spring is the best time, but you can't always do it in spring, so you do it whenever you can. I'm in Zone 9B, so for us, we have a longer growing season that I can do things like this. Now, this is a very long one. I think, in fact, I'm going to come up just a little bit more. If you have a really gnarly end where the node is curled over, is big, it's hard, go ahead and cut that off and go up to your next node. You can use any potting medium you want to use. You can use sand, perlite, vermiculite, ground soil, anything, whatever you want to do. Now, look at this one. I left the 3 long branches on it, and it has a very short stem. I don't know if it will work or not, but I'm going to try. I could cut this off and make smaller cuttings. It's entirely up to you. I left a little leaf material. If I think I have too much, I'll come back and take a little bit off. Make sure you put your labels on. All right. That's all I'm going to put in this pot right now. And I'll have to get another pot. And I'll do that off camera. It's that easy though. Make sure you put your label in. Now these I'm going to just slip into some water right now. And then I'll come back and finish them in just a minute because I want to show you something else. Okay, I got a little jar, put some water in it, put the rest of my cuttings in. In fact, I might leave some of the skinnier ones in here to see if they'll water root for me. If you're new to water rooting, try it with practically anything. Prepare your cutting just like you would if you were going to stick it in soil, but put it in a container of water. This will go into indirect light. You don't want any foliage in the water itself. And that's all you have to do. Put it somewhere warm. All right. The aloe vera that's left over, I will be using the rest of it. But if you don't use it all, you don't have to waste it. You can put it in a plastic bag, you put it in your refrigerator. Or you can go ahead, slice it open, take the goo out, use the goo for fertilizer. Then take your flesh and put that down underneath a plant because it's supposed to help deter bugs. Multi-use. All right, we're going to up-pot a couple of little hibiscus. I got these nice little decorator pots. These came from the $1.25 store. They have great drainage holes in them. All-purpose potting mix. Lots of organic material in it. All right, I have these little hibiscus cuttings that a friend traded with me the other day. They're very root bound. In fact, they won't even stand up by themselves. So all I'm going to do, and I did wet this soil. I don't know the name of this variety. It's a white hibiscus. It produces a white blossom. From the leaves, I would say it is a hardy hibiscus. It was grown about 2 counties over from us, so that's pretty local. And I'm just going to tease some of that bottom apart. It is very wet because we did water. You don't have to water your plants first. So I'm just going to snug it in right in the middle. And I'm going to put it up just a hair higher. That's it. It already looks better, doesn't it? Hopefully we'll have a bloom soon, and I'll be able to identify the hibiscus, because there's only, you know, dozens of white hibiscus. And I could be wrong. It could be a tropical one. We'll see. All right. So that's that one. I have another one here. This one actually has a bud on it. I hope that transplanting it doesn't make the bud drop. And I was a little leery about transplanting it. I was going to try and wait. But I've had them for about a week. The little pots are too small. They can't retain enough water. The hibiscus was drying out. So I'm going to go ahead and pot it. Hibiscus, hardy hibiscus are really, really easy. They do like sun. They like medium water. And they can handle a little more water if you have really well draining soil. But like most plants, they don't want to sit waterlogged. Hibiscus are usually disease-free. They do tend to get little mealybugs, which you can take care of very easily, and that's the little white cottony bugs. You can take care of that very easily with some natural, organic, soft-bodied bug spray for soft bodies. Look at that roots. If the roots are too long, you can come in and cut them off. So let's see. Where was that bud? There it is. Snug it in. I've got a little dove flying around, and she's picking up sticks and flying back up into the trees. Must be making her nest, but I only see one. Usually you see them in pairs. Mourning doves is what we have here. Can you hear? It's like she said, okay, I know you want me to make a noise, so I'm not going to do it. All right. So that's it. In just a few moments' time, I have repotted the 2 hibiscus. And I put them in these pots with the white on them, since they have white blooms. Should look very nice. I don't know how big they're going to get, but that's okay. If they outgrow these pots, I'll just pot them up again. Hibiscus are hardy, even if they're tropical. If they're tropical, they're hardy, even if they're tropical. Okay, is that confusing? All right, so I have my container of cuttings, and I have my jar with water in it. I am going to prepare another pot with soil and do these larger cuttings, and I may try to water root it some and see if it works. The foliage that I saved, that will go into my compost, earth compost. I can put it in with my vermicompost. You can give it to your animals. You can throw it up underneath your trees for chop and drop, for a mulch effect. Hey, lots of uses, so you don't have to throw it away. But all in all, for just a few minutes work, that's pretty good. Okay, that's it. Don't need to go get my pot ready. Don't be afraid to do cuttings. There's only a couple of things you really have to watch. One of the major reasons that cuttings fail is they dry out. You have to keep your cuttings moist. If you have a mister, fantastic. I don't have one, but what I will do is come out at least every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, and set my garden hose nozzle on mist and mist everything. And mist the top also, not just watering the bottom. That's it. These should do very, very well. These are going into indirect bright light. They'll be fine. I will remember to put a label on them. Till we speak again, have a fantastic day.